Okay, it says we're preparing to live stream. It still says on mine that we're setting up, but it says on your screen.
I think we're streaming. It's fine.
Is Anita still on mute, or is she fine?
No, I'm off mute, I think.
Okay, lovely.
Oh, maybe I have.
All right, Sandy, I think we're good to go.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, it's me first. Sorry, we haven't got a chair yet. We need to have an election. So the first item on the agenda is to elect a chair, and I did have a proposal that I've already received that that Sandy was going to put himself forward. Alistair.
Well, I was going to propose Sandy because he's been a long-standing member of community, and I know that it's a subject that's very close to his heart, and I think he'll actually make a very good chairman.
Okay.
I'd second that because Sandy has always been very involved in community, great ideas. So I would second that wholeheartedly.
Okay, do we have any other proposals for chair? In which case we don't need an election. You are elected as chair, Sandy, and I hand the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the people who supported me. Could we now go to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item 2, the election of deputy chair. And I would like to propose that Councillor Anita Crammer is elected deputy chair for this committee. Could I have a second, please?
Paul Mason has seconded.
Could I just say, thank you very much, Sandy. I appreciate that. I'd love to do it. Can I say I'll do it for 1 year? Because I do think there are others who could take over and do a very good job too. So I'm doing it for 1 year.
Thank you very much.
Okay. No other proposals?
Can we say that, I was going to ask, can we say Anita is now elected?
You have to ask if there are any other proposals.
There might be.
There are not, so you can declare.
Right, thank you. I declare Councillor Anita Crammer is now Deputy Chairman of this committee, and I am very, very happy about that because her experience is tremendous and will be of great help to all of us. Can we then go on to item 3, public questions time?
Okay.
So could you take these?
Yeah, I have received quite a lot of public questions, and they're quite long, but I'm going to sort of rattle through them and give advice where I can. So the first one is from the Beaconsfield Society, submitted by Paul Ormston, and he's got a number of, you've all received these questions in detail by email. So the first one is that there are a number of benches requiring repair around the Town Hall Green, the corner of Seeley's Road, Penn Road, the Lord's Bench by the station, and they're in need of refurbishment or repair. The members of the Love Beaconsfield team have expressed an interest in helping to restore the benches and are happy to investigate a number of options using local businesses or charities to help progress this. I'm kind of paraphrasing because there is quite a lot of this. Could you confirm if the Town Council could support this approach? And if so, what processes and guidelines would need to be followed to ensure the final repaired benches are fit for purpose? I would say that we already have a bench replacement programme in place, which perhaps Paul wasn't aware of. And I have sort of tried to make people aware of it and point out the new benches that we have been replacing. But we're happy to sort of hear advice about which ones to do next. I think, Jeanette, I can't remember if we had a specific order in which we were doing them or whether it was just as and when the next ones needed doing.
Sandy's got his hand up.
Oh, you're the chair, Sandy. You don't need to put your hand up.
For the avoidance of doubt with the members of the committee and with residents, I have a potential conflict of interest in that I am a member of the Beaconsfield Society, and the Love Beaconsfield is an initiative of the Beaconsfield Society, which I very much supported. I
Okay,
do have other interests which ought to be declared under the next item, item 5.
Okay.
Apologies.
I'll take them, but I'll note them in the minutes at this point. Okay.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
So we replace benches when they become unsafe as a priority. And obviously some people come forward and want to continue to commemorate a bench or want a new commemoration. And thereafter, it's other benches that we gradually want to change. So in the Old Town, it would be the historic Old Town, it would be metal benches like you see on Windsor and Green, and in everywhere else. In the New Town, it is the recycled black plastic benches that we are replacing other benches with.
Paul Henry has his hand up.
It would seem to me, Chair, that if we've got two sources of repair for our benches rather than one, this would be to our advantage. And if we've got willing volunteers prepared to go out and spend their time and raise money for the benches, for restoring benches, I see no reason at all why we should not allow them to do this. It's a very generous offer, I think.
Their proposal was to be hands-on rather than raising money from a town council.
As well, I understand. Yes.
From a town council perspective, I would prefer the money, and I'd prefer to replace the benches under the programme that we have.
But we can do that as well, can't we? Why can't we offer volunteers the opportunity to do that? It seems churlish to refuse an offer of help, which would otherwise accrue to the budget from the town council.
The problem is I don't, with the replacement programme that we have in place, I don't have an opportunity for people to go out and paint benches, because the replacement programme is either in the Old Town conservation area, they must be a particular type of bench which are metal and fit with the particular look and feel that we have there. And then the other ones we are replacing with the tree saver, forest saver bench, which that's also available in a lumber cut like timber. So the where we have the timber slats, we can replace that with the plastic as well. So again, it's not really a painting job. That.
And is the programme on track?
The programme is as we do it. Alistair has his hand up, Sandy. Alistair.
Peter.
Well, I just wanted to follow up on what Paul was saying. I mean, I think if we have a standard of a methodology that needs to be used in a particular circumstance, whether it's one type of bench or another, and the capability is there to meet the standard, then I think that presents some opportunities. If we're not able to meet the standard, then I understand why you would rather have the money than helpers who might not be, able to do the job correctly. But I don't know that we're actually at that point. I mean, do we have a laid down procedure in terms of, a replenishment or refurb, more like type process? Do we have that?
We replace them, we use a particular contractor, or maybe one of two contractors actually, or three, depending on the site and what the issue is. And that involves disposal of, it involves delivery, dispose of the new one and disposal of the old one. And there's quite a lot of fixing into the ground. I think Jeanette is more familiar with that. Jeanette has her hand up, in fact.
I think.
Well, Councillor Rowan has his hand up. I would like to answer.
Sorry,
Councillor Rowan, please.
Chris.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's great if people volunteer their time. But I think the worry would be health and safety. If somebody did a bench and it collapsed and all this sort of thing, you know. So I think it's great that people do what they do, but I'm not an expert, but that would be my thought. You know, is it if it's a public bench and it collapses, what, you know, it's I'm sure there are some people capable of doing the public benches, but there's probably some people that would. I mean, if I did it, it would definitely collapse. So that was just making that point, really.
Jeanette, do you have?
Yes, there's one anomaly, and that is in the new town. There is an old Lord's bench between the railway road and the Town Hall Green Road. So if the town, which I don't know, years ago somehow got bequeathed to the town council, it's on town council land. So that would be an anomaly that the town council might think is the exception to the rule in terms of replacement, or perhaps moved to somewhere else more suitable, maybe the cricket club, where it could be repurposed. You know, I've just mentioned there's a particular Lord's bench.
Paul Mason has his hand up, and so does Alison.
Sorry, Paul, please go ahead.
Yeah, very quick one. And a point of clarification. Around the Town Hall Green, the benches they look, and as Mr. Ormston says, aesthetically pleasing. And I'm not sure whether the replacement, you know, those, could they be used, given their cast iron and look nicer? Would they be replaced or put somewhere else? I mean, that was my only question.
What we're hoping to use there is the same type of material, but it looks like cut lumber. So instead
you
of
would retain the
cast iron and
That's fine.
replace it with the same material as the other benches, but then it's not subject to vandalism, it's not doesn't need maintenance and that sort of thing. It should look quite smart. I think Alison had her hand up next, and also Paul Henry.
Oh, yeah, hello. I was actually going to say the same thing as Paul Mason, because there are those two very attractive benches near the pavement on Town Hall Green. So I'm pleased to hear that they would be retained mostly as they are, but repaired. On Chris's health and safety point, I do agree with that. The idea was that if the volunteers were to repair anything, then the idea would be for the final repair to be signed off by somebody on behalf of the town council, so they wouldn't just be allowed out there in the public domain without, you know, having been checked for safety purposes.
I think Paul Henry had Paul Henry had his hand up and
yes. Thank you, Town Clerk. I suppose my final comment would be, you know, if there is a town council programme to repair and replace the seats that are, according to the Paul Ormston, broken and dilapidated, can you give me a time frame by which you can do that?
I don't have that off the top of my head, Jeanette.
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I would add that because of the plastic Forest Saver recycled planks of wood, where the looks with the grain looks like that, we would have to source a supplier that could make the right dimensions and lengths of recycled wood to fit in, and that has not yet been sourced. So for that reason, I wouldn't be able to tell you how long it would take to do that. And then the ends would need to be resprayed and then need to be reset.
I think also, to answer your question, it's not, we haven't been on a race to do it. We do it as and when.
But Town Clerk, why not? If they're broken and dilapidated, surely we should be fixing them. If we've got a plan and you're refusing help to do it, then we should do it, and we should do it quickly.
Okay, I'm not refusing help to do it. This is a public question that's come in today, and it's up to the council to look at that. We can speed up the programme. It costs money. It takes, you know, I can spend money from capital reserve if we can.
And use the offer of the free help to do it, which means we wouldn't have to spend money.
the free offer to do it will not give us the benches that we have committed to.
Sorry, can I interrupt, because we've only got 15 minutes for question time and there are now another 1 or 2 questions. Can we leave this that you, Town Clerk, will liaise with Paul Ormston for his offer and see how we can get the benefits of what he's offering and conform to what you think is necessary, and then put it to the Town Council when it meets later this month?
Okay, I will do that. I will also skip down the rest of his questions because I can answer some of them quickly. Overgrown trees and hedges, he wants to know how you handle that. You call the Town Council, we check out whose hedge it is, whether it's ours or a resident's. If it is a resident and it's obstructing the highway, we can write a letter to them. We need the exact address and we can go and sort that out. He's also asking about litter. Lots of people are doing litter picks. We know that there is a problem in the town about litter. We have been liaising with the Buckinghamshire Council. There was a street sweeper spotted, a pavement sweeper spotted in the Old Town the week before last, which was very exciting because we haven't had one of those for a while, but it looks like it might be ours. We're trying to find out what the schedule is for that, which would be a great thing. We still are not aware that they have replaced Yasmin, who was our contracts manager for Beaconsfield, and Adrian, who is the one for Amersham, has been covering for quite a few months. So he's very responsive to us, but he has got a really big patch to cover. So I'm hoping that they are listening to our moans, because we do moan at them a lot about that, and it's improving. Greening and bulb planting. Some members would like the opportunity to regreen and plant bulbs in some of the public areas, such as the Town Hall Green, the footpaths that run adjacent to Seeley's, and some other places. The Town Hall Green is not really suitable because it's got too many in it already. I know that I've sent people to Hall Barn and to use the Memorial Garden. They weren't so happy either, but I will write to Paul to say what we could suggest. Illegal signs that they think have appeared on lampposts, please just call us up and we will send John out to have a look at them. If they are illegal signs, we remove them there and then. So that can be done straight away. Paul Henry has his hand up.
Sorry, I remember from a past time on the council, I enjoyed very much going out with secateurs and cutting down signs from lampposts in the town, and I assume that authority still applies to councillors, that we can do that.
I don't know that it applies to councillors, but if you want to check with the office what the rules are, and then yeah, I mean, we
Good.
at the council, I normally send John Bull to do it.
Okay.
We just have to check. I mean, it's worth checking with us because we may have given permission for the sign. There are certain criteria that under the devolved services we are able.
I understand.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I must close question time and move on. We've already exceeded our 15 minutes. Can I move on to item 4, apologies for absence? Clerk? I
have no apologies for absence today.
Thank you. Item 5, declarations of interest. I'm going to start the ball rolling. I've already mentioned I'm a member of the Beaconsfield Society. I'm also chairman of the Beaconsfield Community Association. I'm a trustee of the Curzon Centre, and I'm on the World War II Commemoration Committee. Could I ask if there anybody else who've got declarations?
Anita. Oh, loads of people. Anita.
I'm Chair of Better Connect Beaconsfield.
Do you want me to flag these up, Sandy? Alistair?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 things. One is that when you declare an interest, it's really a question of whether or not you have an interest in an item on this evening's agenda where you believe that there may be a conflict, okay? You don't have to necessarily say that you are associated with a particular group or a committee if there is no conflict, ahead of you in the agenda. And on that note, I would like to declare a potential interest, which is that if during the discussion on World War II commemoration, there is any sort of reference to a proposed commemorative statue, then I will have to declare an interest at that point.
Thank you. Any other members who have declarations of interest? Bearing in mind Alistair's advice.
Alison has her hand up.
Alison.
Depending on what comes up, I'm just declaring that I'm a unitary councillor.
Thank you. No one else? Well, let's move on. Item 6, the minutes of the last meeting. They've all been circulated. Has anybody had any questions? Clark, are there any matters arising that you think need to be covered, or can we move on straight to all the agenda items if they're covered in the agenda?
Yeah, I'll cover it in the next item. Anita's got her hand up.
Well, I just would like to raise a point. That is, we did decide in the last community meeting that we would spend some money on town communication, and we did pay for space in the Beaconsfield Community Magazine, and which is very good, and it's very well done. But I also would say that Alexa's doing it. And so I think, Sandy, it might be a good idea, if we're not going to have time probably, but in any other business, if we got a committee to sort of organise the promotion of the communication of the town through that magazine and take it off Alexa's back.
Right, well, item 11 covers communications. I know the clerk is going to talk about that, but we'll take that point on. Could we now go on to the clerk's report? That's item 7 on the agenda for those who have got the papers in front of them.
Yes, that's fine. I was going to mention that as it's in the minutes as well. So one thing that has happened is that finally Bucks gave approval for the water fountain, which means that we can move on with the certificate of lawfulness. So hopefully that's not going to hit any more snags along the way, because we've jumped through every possible hoop that could be done. We haven't moved on with the town map, but hopefully now that we're sort of getting back into the office and things like that, we will have more time and capacity to do things. The newsletter has happened. It's gone out quite a lot. It's been going out in the Beaconsfield Together magazine, which should go through every door in Beaconsfield. We did have a few postcodes that appeared to be missed, but I brought them up with the distributor, and they are addressing that. So hopefully we shouldn't have that problem again. And that's all I have on that item. Okay, so you can...
Thank you. Item 8 is the community bus. Jeanette, would you like to report on that?
So at the last community and safety meeting, which to be honest, I can't remember when that was, but it was last year. Was it March? Okay.
March,
okay, fine. The last community and safety meeting before the new elected councillors, it was decided that the decision for the future of the community bus would be left to the new councillors that now are before us. So there is no new information since those reports that you've got. Alistair's got his hand up. Alistair, do you want to?
Well, I'd just like to make the point that I sat in 2 committees, one of which may have been resources, the other may have been town council. And in both those committees, there was a very strong and overwhelming view that we would like to continue the trial when it was safe and that we were able to do that. So although the previous council is no more in terms of ability to sort of pursue this, I think it's worthwhile new councillors knowing that there was a strong level of support for community bus.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Has any other councillor got any points they would like to raise on this matter? So can I assume, oh sorry, yes, Paul?
I think there is a decision to be made, Chairman, as to which of the various models that Jeanette is proposing that we take forward. And there is a significant financial implication to that decision. I'm not sure whether, with your agreement, we should do that tonight, or do you want further time to investigate the options? Because there's a complexity to them, which might be difficult to explain now, if I could put it that way.
Thank you. The clerk wants to say something.
Yes, I'd just like to say what the bus is a big thing, so the full decision would not come from this committee. What we're looking for is a recommendation to move ahead and investigate those things, and the finance is obviously a really big issue, and I think what we're looking for tonight is for you to say, do you know what, we would like to support this, or we don't want to support it. If you do want to support it, I think you need to recommend to go forward to the Resources Committee with a proposal to consider purchasing a bus.
Good.
For example.
Yeah. Excellent.
Can I ask whether any member is against this recommendation going forward to the Town Council? Well, then, to save any time, I think we ought to make sure that this goes on the Town Council agenda, please, with whatever clarification is needed between the time today and the Town Council meeting. Yes, Councillor Pike.
Do you think it would be a good idea to have, you know, 2 or 3 councillors sort of look at the detail and make some recommendations?
Can I ask you, Jeanette, in terms of forming a working group, will that make sense to you?
Yes, I'm more than happy. I suppose I didn't get round to ever selling the idea of the bus to you all, but you're obviously all very supportive of it. And the previous councillors, as Alistair said, were very supportive of it, but didn't want to make that decision knowing they were about to not potentially be re-elected. So more than at the moment, a lot of the reports and the things that you've seen have been with the drivers and conductors, some of which are now councillors. And yes, I think some councillors extra to that to look at the finances and the options are more than welcome, because I think the last time this work was done was over a year ago. So with your support, if you want us to continue with the community bus trial, we need to look at the route again, look at the best purchase option and the right type of bus, and just review the work that we did. And in particular, the route would need to now include the new medical centre route. So there's some things to be done.
Alison, I can see your hand up, I believe.
Thank you. Yes, I was just wanting to ask that if there is going to be a working group of councillors to look into the bus options, I just wondered if we should expand that to look into parking in general, because there are lots of parking issues around the town. I think the bus is a great initiative. It can help with that, but there are other initiatives that we could perhaps consider as well. So I would like to propose that we have a working group looking at the parking issues in the town as well as the bus.
Well, I think that's a separate issue from the bus. So can we concentrate on the bus for the moment, and then we'll come back to the parking issues. Paul Henry, you have a hand up.
I'm sorry, Alison, but I disagree with that from the point of view that there is an expectation very much amongst the users of the bus that as we emerge from COVID, that the bus is going to restart. And it's urgently needed because people were used to it and they're missing it. And I'm urging councillors not to spread this out until next year. We really need a decision on this quickly so that we can reinstate the bus service now that people will begin to use it again and need it. as in.
Okay, well, that's why I suggest that it's concentrated and undivided attention to the bus.
Yeah.
And we'll worry about the parking issue, which is a big problem anyway, separately. Yes,
Yeah.
Alistair.
I think just on the question of the bus, there's no reason why we can't, as a group, say, yes, let's continue with the trial, even if we take a very short-term view with regard to the means by which it's achieved in terms of, buy or rent, as it were. Typically, I would think that if we were to, buy some time by actually hiring a facility and within sort of 3 months, review all of the points in Jeanette's report. In other words, we get it up and running.
Jeanette, do you see any problems in that?
To get it up and running.
To get it up and running, yes.
Yeah, to get it up and running requires me to get permits and licenses in place, which will take some weeks. But yes, obviously that would be quicker than procuring a bus, but it couldn't happen instantly.
Okay, well, that understood. Sorry, is anybody else making a point? I can't see all the hands up, any of the hands up.
Hi there. I just had a quick question, sorry, Jeanette. So on that point of a sort of a short solution, or a quick solution for that matter, would that be financially viable? Is that something that you consider as well? I mean, seeing that, we've limited resources in terms of funding, etc., and funding has always been an issue.
I think we're talking 6 weeks plus. From a starting stop just to get the permits. You're talking about re-advertising something that has been dormant for a long time with a new route, and therefore, and I think financially, clearly, short-term lease will be far more expensive than something else. So, and then added to that, you have to decide when is the right time to start. So from a purely financial, least amount of waste of time in terms of stopping and starting, and more productive time, I would say, would be that you would start a little bit later, but get everything ready for the way that you're not going to change it. Because if you keep changing the route, the passengers have to relearn that new route. So I would propose that whatever route we do, even if we start early, assumes the medical centre is open and running. And from a financial point of view, if our long-term or 3-year term that would be most optimum.
I second that, yeah.
Thank you. No other points. Councillor Owen, did you have your hand up?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, can we go ahead on that basis then, please? And we'll move on to the next item.
So are you making a recommendation positively to the Resources Committee to consider the finance and to set up a working group with the 2 items?
I think the recommendation was to the Town Council,
Yes,
not
please.
the Resources Group.
Okay. I mean,
Right.
I would suggest it goes through the Resources Group because it happens a week before anyway.
Well, okay.
Yes, absolutely fine. Can we now move on? Item 9, this is the Boundary Commission issue. There is, for some people who don't know it, certainly for the people who are residents and other visitors, that the Beaconsfield constituency boundaries are to be reviewed, and there is a proposal from the Boundaries Commission, which is not to be too dramatic, rivers apart. What will disappear from Beaconsfield as we know it in the constituency terms will be Wilton Park, Burnham Avenue, Lakes Lane, our garage, the church at the St Mary's, the guide hut, the rugby grounds, the playgrounds. There are other buildings involved on the south side of the A40, extending up to Sartons Mead, and then further on to South Drive, and to the playing fields. Those are very serious issues, and there has got to be very little emotion in this. It has got to be objective and factual if we are to challenge the proposals and going further, ask the government to reject those proposals. What I propose to do, if this committee is supportive, is to set up a working group quickly, because the comments have got to be submitted to the Boundaries Commission by the 2nd of August, which gives us just about 4 weeks. And as I say, they've got to be a logical argument and another alternative put forward, which might be acceptable to the Boundary Commission, rather than losing all the heritage that we've got in this town. I know that some people that I've spoken to are very much in favour of challenging the Boundaries Commission view, but I'd like to know the whole committee's view. Is there any member of the committee who feels that we ought to accept the Boundaries Commission proposals without any argument? If so, please put your hand up. Paul, yes.
He has his hand up.
I'm not sure that I can equate the wholeness of Beaconsfield with parliamentary constituency boundaries. I don't recognise the validity of a parliamentary constituency boundary, which is purely there in order to elect a member of parliament, and the whole of Beaconsfield. I mean, what I'd much rather see, if we're going to move a boundary, is move the boundary with the north of Beaconsfield upwards to include all of Beaconsfield up to Knotty Green in Beaconsfield. That seems really to be a much more logical step, so that this town council is dealing with all of Beaconsfield, as it will continue to do, even if we lose the old town to a constituency called something else. So I don't see the relevancy of the constituency boundary to Beaconsfieldness.
I would take your point about the attraction of enlarging Beaconsfield to include, for example, the northern end of Sandalford End, and what we call Knotty Green at the moment, which includes that area, and also the northern end of Penn Road. But that's not what we're up against right now. I think that should be the subject of another challenge at a later date. Okay. There are going to be three submissions by the three proposals by the Boundaries Commission, and their final proposals to government is expected in 2023. But we have got this thing right in front of us, and I hear very much what you say, and in fact I'm very supportive of what you said, but I don't think that's the issue now. Okay. The issue now is Beaconsfield constituency will be subsumed by this proposal into Amersham and Chesham. Beaconsfield will have no independent Beaconsfield voice in Parliament if this is allowed to go ahead. And my own view, which I think is supported by everybody here, is we've got to fight this, but we've got to fight this logically rather than emotionally. Can I have the support then to have this working group? I would like to write to everybody within the next 48 hours to see who would be able to contribute, who wants to contribute, and who's qualified to contribute. Is that acceptable? Sure. Bearing in mind Paul's point.
Do you have a show of hands? Sandy's asking for a resolution. Thank you.
I can't see everybody, Clark, so I leave it to you to decide whether this is...
You got your resolution.
Right. I will be in touch with everybody between now and Monday evening. Can we then move on, please, to item 10? And Councillor Pike, will you talk to this, please?
I would do. Can you tell me what item 10 is, please?
Item 10.
This is the town plan.
Okay.
the production of a new 5-year plan.
Sorry, but I left all my papers behind a bus stop in London somewhere.
No, the item on the agenda is Councillor Pike to consider forming a working group to produce the new 5-year town plan.
Okay, I mean, briefly, the town plan currently is actually a year out of sync because we lost a year back in 2016. So it should have actually gone up to this year. So basically, we're now looking for a new town plan to run from 2022 for a further 5-year period. And let it suffice to say that essentially, a town plan consists of some fundamental aims which will be ongoing from one plan to another, with the exception of perhaps changes such as lobbying the unitary council as opposed to lobbying the district and county councils, which is simply a change in wording. Elsewhere, there are specific objectives, which are the, shall we say, the add-ins that the town council will be looking to make progress with and agree what they should be during the course of this plan. I think on this occasion, we have got a substantial input, which will also be coming from the proposals in relation to the neighbourhood plan, where later on in the year, we hope to have a consultation with residents, and that probably will now be somewhere around beginning of October. So at this stage, what we need is again, some councillors to sit together and to actually look at the current plan and then to propose to the town council in total where we might wish to go with a new town plan. And it may well be that this is something where we should take the views of all town councillors, even if they are being assimilated through a sort of a working group, as it were, for practical purposes. So I'm quite happy to participate, and through the chair, obviously there are others of you present who may also wish to get involved in this.
Is anybody else got any comment? Because otherwise I'd like people to put their hands up if they are interested in joining the working group, which I would suggest is led by Alistair, who led the last expectations on the town plan for 2015 to 2021. Anybody got their hands up?
Well, the way I saw Sandy, the way I saw it, it's your turn next because you did the one in 2010.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I thought we were friends, but obviously I had to change my view. Having said that, I think we need some fresh views, and I think it would be good if you're effectively saying you'd like to hand over the lead of the working party to somebody else. Could we have anybody that is prepared to take the lead in putting a working group together and putting proposals forward? Paul, you got your hand up.
Can I ask a question? Are we excluding input from non-council members, other organisations in the town who may have insight into?
No, we're not excluding anybody.
Right. So are we going to include them on the working group, or are we just going to send out the result and ask them what they think about it?
Alistair, you got something to say?
Yeah, I think bearing in mind the fact that we have got a number of people involved with neighbourhood plan, it's probably the case that we wouldn't need to have quite the same structure and participation as we did with Vision for Beaconsfield, where I still think that we're actually, wanting to progress with some of the recommendations that they made back in 15-16. So I would say the answer to your question or your point, Paul, is yes, we can involve other people, but I don't think we need a lot of other people.
Okay, thank you for that, Alistair. Anybody else got any points they want to raise on this matter?
Paul Mason had his hand up. I
And-
wasn't sure if he was
Oh,
volunteering.
I can't see your hand, unfortunately. I can now. But
And then Khalid after that.
No, I mean, I think two things. Obviously, if we are going out to consultation around the neighbourhood plan in October, and we want the town plan to start effectively from the 1st of January, it doesn't leave a great amount of time. So I would propose that we should be working up the draft in advance of the neighbourhood plan, and then sense check it against everything that comes back and that we learn, rather than waiting until we hear back from things like the neighbourhood plan and everything else. So it's a process thing. Otherwise, we're going to miss the beginning of the.
Yeah, I mean, can I just say, entirely consistent with the conversation that I had with Clark earlier in the week, and there are a number of things where we will be working towards the sort of autumn budgeting cycle, because in December we have to approve the budget and the impact on the precept for 2022-23. So it's quite clear that we can't sit now and do nothing and wait. So you're absolutely right.
Khalid, you had a question?
Paul Henry already covered my questions. It's fine. I got my answer.
Can I ask a question? Another question. So, do we see the town plan as aspirational? Do we see it as something, given that it's 5 years into the future, do we see included in the town plan something which is definitely not included in next year's budget, for instance? Right? Is it an aspirational document, or is it just a statement of the things that we would like to happen incrementally, if you see what I mean? I'm trying to judge what the mood of the council is to having a look at Beaconsfield in a 5-year aspirational sense, to say, really, if we wanted to change things for the better, what would we have to write in this plan, rather than have a repair of the seats thing cyclically, if you see what I mean. I'm trying to tease out what we see the town plan as. Is it an aspirational document, or is it just business as usual?
So would you like to answer that point?
Well, I think the answer to the question is that,
if you don't mind. Or perhaps the councillors don't have a view. No, obviously not.
No.
Sorry, Clark, can I ask you to speak on this?
I was only going, I'm not making a point. I know that it's the councillors who decide. I was just hoping to give some guidance. It should be a plan of work that you are hoping to achieve. So it may be aspirational, but I would hope that you would keep it realistic. And as I discussed with Alistair earlier in the week, we will be moving into the budget cycle. So you will need to be setting a precedent about what you're going to spend over 5 years. And that's not something that this town council has really done in a budgetary sense previously. However, when we reviewed our standing orders and financial regulations last year, it was an ambition of the council to move towards doing those forecasts into the future from a budgetary point of view. So I would just say, bear that in mind, that totally tied in with the budget, the precept, how much you're going to spend.
Okay, that's disappointing.
Okay, has anybody got any more questions, or are we satisfied with what we've heard so far?
Paul Mason has his hand up.
I mean, I was just going to simply come back on Paul's point. I think ultimately a 5-year plan, if we were looking at this from a business perspective, would be both aspirational and have deliverables within it. And that would be very much how I would like to see it, because I think it feeds into, and it should feed into, each of the annual budget discussions, because it gives us a roadmap and a direction for where we want to go, recognizing that, of course, things change. And what we might have decided in 2021 was very important. By the time you get to 2025, might be slightly different. So that there has to be that flexibility to adjust as we go along for the annual budgets, but still have that aspirational of where we're trying to get to.
Okay, thank you. Alistair?
Well, I probably missed something, but Paul Henry said that you were finding something disappointing. I mean, the answer to your point is that nothing is excluded in the same way that nothing is included. So I would tend to agree with what Paul Mason's just said, but you know, until you get there, you don't actually cross the road.
Yeah, I was really commenting to the town clerk's comment that the 5-year plan should be within the budgetary precept limits that are set moving forward. And, you know, if we were, for instance, to say what we really need in Beaconsfield is an underground multi-storey car park in the old town, right, which is clearly outside of the precept of the town council, but it's aspirational, and we put that in the plan, we can then use that as a lever to raise money, get the Buckinghamshire to, you know, to see if they can fulfill that requirement. And if we're not aspirational about what we really want, however, I understand that reaching a decision about what we really want might be very difficult together. But, you know, if we analyze properly and decide what we really want is we want a pedestrian-free centre of Beaconsfield, right? How do we go about that? That is not something for our precept. That's not something that we can directly influence. And bear in mind, these are just examples. But, you know, if we put our aspirations into the town plan, we can use it as leverage moving forward.
I think I'd just make the point in reply that we need to sort of be hand in hand here with the neighbourhood plan, because some of the aspirational stuff will be in the neighbourhood plan.
Sure.
So I think as long as we don't lose sight of what, you know, each is doing, and we bring it together under one umbrella at the end, we should actually achieve the kind of things you're talking about.
Sure. Good.
Sorry, Sandy.
Councillor Owen had his hand up.
Who has his hand up? Yeah, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I was just going to say that my understanding of the town plan is that we put things in there that we think we can do in the next 5 years. If we want to have some dreams, or we want to have an underground car park or a multi-storey car park, or whatever, then that's something else. We can get together and we can forward that, right? We think this, but the town plan's got to get simple and realistic. You know, we've got this amount of money. This is what we're going to do with it. It's not for saying, and great, let's make the town better, but it's not in the town plan. It's not, you know, if I win the lottery, I'm going to go to Las Vegas, maybe, I don't know. But at the moment, my holidays aren't including doing that. So I think the town plan is just got to be sensible. We can have aspirations. If you really think we need underground parking in the old town, let's get together and we'll look at that and how we're going to fund it. But it's nothing that does not go in the town plan.
But if we don't write it down somewhere, then it doesn't exist.
But then the town plan is just fantasy. This town plan has got to be, well, we've got this amount of money and this is what we're going to do with it.
Oh, this was my point, is whether it's inspirational or not, and clearly it isn't.
No, it isn't. We're just saying that we've got this much money and this is what we're going to do with it. Okay. We can have inspiration and aspiration and whatever you like, but there's no place for it in the town plan. The town plan is, Otherwise, you can put lots of things in there and none of it will get done.
Sure.
And
So
if you make
where is
plans-
the place for it, Chris? Where is the place for it?
Well, not in the town plan.
Yeah, but where do we as a council express our aspirations?
Well, you come up with the idea, get some plans together, and say, look, I want to do this, and we can discuss it. But it's not in. We don't. You know, we could put we could put loads of stuff in the town plan. We've got no way of doing it. You know, we've got a fixed budget in the town plan. That's my understanding. I might be wrong. And we need to say, right, this is what money we've got. This is what we're going to do with it. We can have dreams and aspirations beyond that, and that'd be fantastic. And I would, you know, if somebody comes up with some great ideas that we want to the town, I'll be the first one to support it. But we need to keep the town plan is difficult enough, trying to be realistic and make a real one without putting, or if we have this, we could do this, this, and this. But you know, if you've got some ideas, great, let's hear them. But you know, not tonight, probably.
Paul, are you clear as to, this is Paul Henry I'm talking to now, as to what sort of timetable you will anticipate? Because we are aiming to have something that would be put to the town council in draft and outline form by the October meeting. So there's probably about, bearing in mind the summer vacation, there's probably about 10 to 12 weeks. I feel that some blue sky thinking is essential as an outline idea, which can be looked at with what are the pros and cons and what are the financing things involved, and either included or excluded for the time being in this town plan. So I think that it is a good idea to proceed if you think you can get something outlined which is worthwhile reading as the essence of a town plan by the October Town Council meeting.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's possible, actually, Sandy, to do that because the big visions need a lot of consultation to get there. So maybe the town plan, in this particular evolution of it, is not the right place. But once we do the town plan for a 5-year period, I'm assuming that we can change it. You know, it's not, we're not setting this in concrete for 5 years. We're setting some of the broad principles in concrete, yes, because that's what we always do. But, you know, if we come up with a really good idea next year, we can change the town plan to include that as an aspiration moving forward. Or am I wrong?
Well, what I suggest is that you go ahead with your thoughts and some sketched interest for the framework in each of the areas, and then come back to the committee at our next at our next meeting on 16th of September. Alistair, you've got something to say.
Well, I just want to make the point that we've kicked it around for quite a long period of time, but nobody's actually said, I'd like to be involved in the town plan working group. And that's what we need to get started.
I'd like to be involved in the town plan working group.
I like to be included myself.
Well, yeah. Right. Is there any other councillor that would like to be involved?
And Anita did have her hand up to speak quite a while back.
No, it doesn't. It's not important. I was only going to make the point that the committee structure exists to put forward aspirational projects, which are can then be taken up. And you know, the town plan exists within budgetary constraints, but aspirations come through the committee structures.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've got 2 volunteers, which is always a very helpful start. So I would like to suggest that sometime next week, Paul Mason and Paul Henry get together with me and we decide how we are going to approach people who are not necessarily town councillors, but could have a part to play in a working group.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add myself there as well.
Yep.
Yep.
I apologise, Chairman, but I'm not here next week. I'm on holiday.
Okay, well, that's understandable. Well, it doesn't stop the 2 people plus me meeting, and then we can see where we go and probably contact you the week after when you get back.
Oh,
Okay,
of
I
course,
think
if we're
we have
doing
enough
it,
time on this.
if we're doing it on
Clark,
Teams,
do you understand? Clark, can I have your point? What are you going to minute?
I'm going to minute that you are putting together a working group. Initially, Alistair had already shown interest earlier in the meeting. Paul Henry, Paul Mason, and Mohammed Khalid as well. But I think we could probably open this up to. I think I should probably email all councillors to ask if they're interested in joining.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now, can we move on? We're coming to item 11, which is the communications on which we're going to talk, Alexa.
Okay, this is a relatively brief update. First of all, to mention the point that Councillor Cranmer brought up at the beginning. So following the last community and safety group, we have got the newsletter up and running. It goes out in the Beaconsfield Together magazine. I think it goes out every other month. So we've had 4. I think there might be one out tomorrow as well. So that's going quite well. It is far more cost effective than what we were doing before. It also enables us to get something out every other month, whereas we were under criticism for only putting something out every now and again. I would love more input for articles to go in there. The idea of the town council newsletter is to update on work that the town council is doing. So if you want to submit things to me, that's absolutely fine. I'd be very interested to do it. We also have a Facebook page, Town Clerk Facebook page, which has been running probably for a year, maybe slightly more. It's not the most exciting page, but people do follow it, and it is useful for getting certain information out. The website is due for overhaul. It has been due for overhaul for quite a long time. I think it was, I can see Jackson nodding. It was one of Jackson's very first meetings where he proposed a new website, and we've had the budget to do it. We're going to do it, Jackson. It's going to happen. The only area I don't cover is Twitter, because it's somewhat more gossipy. It's not necessary. Sorry, I know lots of people use Twitter, but from a town council point of view of what we need to do as a town council to talk about town council things, we haven't really got the audience there to use it, to utilize it. I can use it more if that's something that you can persuade me is a useful thing for the town council. But we're not a corporation. We don't need to be promoted. It's about sharing information that is useful to get out. So that was really all I was going to update. Sandy Canwell has her hand up.
Hi there. So quick, thank you, Sandy. So quick question: who handles the social media? Is it you, Alexa, or is it is you? Okay, and I mean Twitter. I don't know. I don't quite agree with you that it's gossipy, to be honest. I just think we need to expand our outreach. Facebook is a great medium, but then we need to look at other ways to sort of reach out to the other sort of general public in Beaconsfield. There are a whole host of people who use Twitter. So I don't know if you don't have the bandwidth, perhaps, because social media really keeps one really busy, and you want to keep it updated quite often. Perhaps, and I'm sorry here, but the young lady who is now coming to the team with you, Alexa, could you remind me the lady who sits in the office now?
Tracy.
Yes, perhaps if she's got some bandwidth, you could be more active on Twitter as well, and then Facebook, because there's such a great scope of reaching out to so many more people. I think newsletters is fine, but there are so many people who don't subscribe to newsletters because it's just spam. I don't subscribe to any newsletter whatsoever. So, but Twitter and, sort of Facebook, etc., might be a good option. So you could perhaps ask Tracy and then, take it from there.
I must admit, I forgot one. I did start an Instagram a few months ago, and that's quite a useful thing. So I use it to.
Yeah, Instagram is cool, but it's more for pictures. I don't know if you have really fancy pictures that you want to sort of put up, or it's more information that you want to put out. And if you want to put out more information, perhaps Twitter is the best form of really reaching out to people.
Yeah, it's quite interesting on Instagram, because a lot of our businesses in the town are on there, and they do post nice pictures and share things, and it gets the message out. The newsletter, I don't have people subscribing to. It literally goes through everyone's door. It's a physical piece of paper inside the Beaconsfield magazine. It's the middle cover of the Beaconsfield Together.
Thank you. Well, I'm not a big fan of that either, to be honest. I think it's just complete misuse of the fact that, we're using paper, and we talk about sustainability. I'd already brought that up earlier as well. We've got to set a precedence and example, and, we've got to slowly move away from paper, etc. And as a council, we must take a step towards that. And very many people, these letters that keep coming to my house go straight into the bin, and I feel furious looking at those papers, thinking, what a waste. And if it's coming from the council.
On the old newsletter, every newsletter that went out, I used to get one letter complaining about it. But
yeah, but then
we've had huge criticism about not putting out a newsletter.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, there's something that, I guess we'll have to do a proper research into. Very many people who throw papers into the bin don't have the time to sort of send letters and emails as well, sort of complaining about misuse of how paper should be used or not used. So, I mean, that's something that, perhaps needs a bit more research. And I can do that for you if that's something you want to really look into. Thank you.
Thank you. If nobody's got any other things to say, sorry, Anita, have you got your hand up?
Well, I was just going to say that we're actually, Campbell, we did do a lot of research on this. This has been going on for 4 years, the whole process. Financial constraints were important to us. And we decided on the community magazine because it had a circulation of 12,000. And it's very popular with the demographics in Beaconsfield, actually. They do like it. It's a well-produced magazine, glossy pages, articles, there's an article on the mayor this month, there's an article on Alex last night. It's very local, very well done. Take a look at it. I don't think you'd put it in the bin, but, have a look at it.
Thank you. Alexa, we must move on. We're talking about Wenlock. And I know one of the ideas has been, I have heard, is that Wenlock should be exhibited around the town. I think we've got to decide what we think Wenlock does for the community, whether it's trying to motivate people living up to the Olympic manners that we've seen in the past. It's not just for decoration. And I wonder whether you felt that, for example, it might be worth exhibiting it at Hotspur on the parkland there, including the playground. There are other areas, of course, but I think Hotspur has been so successful with Hotspur Park that might be an area, but I don't know what other people feel. Is there anything else before we put it to the meeting that you've got to say, which may contradict what I've just said?
Anita has her hand up.
Anita.
Mute.
You're muted. You're muted, Anita.
Sorry, I keep trying to do the right thing and say mute. Did try to do this last year or the year before, actually, Sandy, and it was said to be a monumentally difficult thing to do because Wenlock, who I think should be moved from there, but might be in a minority there, is attached to this huge stone block. And when it came in, apparently, it came in on a small crane, and it's a monumentally expensive thing to do. So we'd have to be totally sure that Hotspur loved it and desperately wanted it because it would be an expensive thing to move it. And then we would be left with, obviously, that pedestal where it would be very nice to put something else, but we'd have to decide what. Maybe the Historical Society might come up with something, but you know, it's not just moving Wenlock, it's a lot bigger than that, really. Sorry, it was just all the difficulties of last year suddenly rose up in my mind.
Well, thank you. It's helpful to realise it's a big project. Councillor Henry.
Can I make an appeal to whatever we do is move it from where it is, please? Because it's right in the way of the Festival of Lights main stage, and we have to build around it. And the sooner it's gone, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Completely.
Has any other councillor anything to add to that?
I'm supporting Paul Henry for it.
Carla, you're supporting Paul Henry's view. Is that right?
Yes, it is right.
I see. Okay. Does anybody else support Paul Henry's view?
Well, I do. I support it. I don't like Wenlock there at all, and I tried to get it moved before, but it's going to be a monumental thing. That's all I'm saying. But I support Paul in his thinking.
I see. Okay. Well, Clark, you've got the mood of the committee. I think perhaps that's something to take to the town council.
And Andrea also has her hand up.
Andrea.
Hi, while I do totally agree it needs to be moved from the town green, I don't know that Hotspur Park is the best place for it. Knowing, I mean, I'm there opposite every day and I don't think it'll last too long.
I'll give it a week. Yeah.
I'm just being as polite as I can be. I mean, I don't know, as a suggestion, a roundabout. I know, like the one in Hotspur, there is a small roundabout. Could it go in the middle of a roundabout? So it's a focal point. However, it's not encroaching on anything.
Good idea.
But not the park.
I see. When you say in the middle of a roundabout, to be seen, or are you hoping that the trees around the roundabout will grow up?
No, to be seen, but it won't encroach on anything because obviously the nature of a roundabout, you're going around it, and the bigger ones you'll still be able to see. I don't know, to have a look at it, just a suggestion.
Okay, well, that's one idea, which is very helpful to have an idea. Paul, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, but I think highways would have something to say about putting a big concrete block in the middle of a roundabout. So we'd have to be very careful about which roundabout we chose. Yeah.
Yes, Jeanette.
The roundabouts are part of Bucks Council highways, so it is not something that the town council could decide to go there. It would be something that you have to speak to the unitary council about, and they sub out the advertising of that to another contractor that tries to generate revenue for advertising of the roundabouts.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think Clark, we reached the end of that discussion with the mood of the committee fairly obvious to you, and we'll wait for you to come back with any ideas which conform to the three councillors who've not hidden their views, and also taking account of Andrea's thoughts as well.
Okay, you still have
can't help you very much.
Paul Mason still has his hand up.
Paul.
I thank you, Sandy. I just find it very difficult to make any decision without understanding the financial implications of what we would do. And I'm on the fence at the minute, because if it made sense and we could move it around, and that's great, but if it's going to be hugely expensive and all the rest of it, then I think we've got to really think hard about what we're doing. So that's all. I'd like some more information.
We do have a man that can move large bits of concrete, and in fact he's doing some work for us at the moment, so we could ask for a price if you like.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I think we defer further discussion on that until we've got some other alternative thoughts, Alex, to put to the committee. Can we move on to CCTV? And again, Alex, so you've got a report you want to make to us?
Yes, it's really just to give you the heads up. I have already had a chat with some councillors about this. It's something that I've been looking at for a couple of years, and it's not managed to get to a situation of actually being a working project, but it needs to be. We need to update the CCTV cameras. Currently, we have analog cameras, which we are connected through something called BT Redcare. That's how the data moves around through this network line, which is very expensive and costs us about it's about £5,500 a quarter. So it's sort of 20 grand just for the data, as well as any maintenance that we have on these cameras. My previous suggestion some 2 years ago was, you know, let's replace these cameras and they will pay for themselves within 3 years just by not having to pay the Redcare. There have been a number of projects ongoing with Buckinghamshire Council who had all sort of subbed it out to a project with Thames Valley Police and Milton Keynes Council. That consortium fell apart. It's apparently come back under Bucks umbrella now, and the officer responsible has made contact with me, and she's trying to pull it all together at the moment. But I'm really just saying to you, we do need to replace these cameras. Some of them are not working very well. Some of them don't twist so well anymore. You know, we've just got to get on and do it. So I'll be looking to bring this back as a project so that we can get some up-to-date prices, understand what Bucks are doing. We are probably the smallest council in Bucks that are part of this thing. Most town and parish councils don't run their CCTV systems. They're usually run by the Superior Council. So we're quite unusual in that respect. But it's something that I will be bringing back as an active project as soon as possible to get you some prices and an idea of how we can improve that, because it's important from a safety point of view. Councillor Grant.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Paul Mason.
Yeah, I just very briefly, I think for the residents as much as anything, my understanding is that because the quality of the existing CCTV is relatively poor, when there are incidents in the town, such as, cash machines being broken into, antisocial behavior and so on, it's very difficult to have useful information from it. So purely from a safety perspective for the community, this would be a logical thing to do. Is that right?
I mean,
okay, thank you. Sorry.
It did help with that cash point matter. It really does.
Yeah.
Does help, but it could be better.
Yeah.
Paul Henry, were you trying to make a point?
You're on mute.
Sorry, are we still paying a fee to what was Wickham District Council, is presumably now Buckinghamshire Council, for the monitoring in the secret location in Wickham?
No, we did a deal some time ago to stop paying for that monitoring.
Okay.
And we were also receiving money annually from South Bucks District Council because a couple of the cameras belonged to them. In my discussion with the lady at Bucks, she said, "You're not paying for the monitoring." I said, "You haven't paid us the money from SBDC." There's been some loss in the handover.
Okay.
So,
to our advantage.
I think so, but we didn't get our money last year, and we're not necessarily going to get it this year. So I think there's a bit of wheeling and dealing.
Sure.
Probably needs to be done there.
Good.
But it is still being monitored.
Okay, thank you.
So,
yes, Anita.
Can I just ask, where is monitoring done now?
As far as I know, it's still happening at Wickham.
Is it? It's going to be moved, isn't it? Because yeah. And do we still get a subsidy from the police, because we do help them, such as the cash machines? Do we still, or do we not receive that?
I've not received that in the 3 years since I've been there. I've
Yeah.
only had the money from SBDC, which didn't.
Yeah. Those are things we have to sort of flesh out, don't we, with our replacement, when we replace.
Yeah, I didn't know about money from Thames Valley
Well, we
Police.
used to, yeah, we used to get about 7,000, I think, but,
That would be the 7.5 that it must have switched to SBDC.
yeah.
Okay, well, I think we leave that now, Alexa, for you to come back when you've got something
Got
positive
two,
to.
got two hands up, Khalid and
Thank you.
Canwell.
Camwell, I can't see you on my screen, I'm afraid.
Thank you again, Sandy. Quick questions for you, Alexa. So what this £5,000 a quarter that we're paying, or we were paying for cameras that don't really work, or some of them don't work, was that for cloud tech?
No, that's for the British Telecom Redcare. Is what the name of the data line that takes the information from the cameras to the monitoring centre.
Okay, so it was for tech. Okay, and the second thing is, who makes the decisions on vendors as to who is going to be doing it? So for example, in this case, obviously BT took the contract. So is it the council that makes the decision on that?
Yeah.
I think if any system that we go to in future is likely to be digital, cloud-based, and
Yeah.
it wipe out the need for that Redcare line.
That's correct. But on a particular vendor, is it the council or would it be the clerk who will?
No, it would be the council. So anything like this, each committee has a spend limit. This is probably going to be above the spend limit of this committee. Or it may not be actually. But if not, it would go to the resources committee, or if it's a big deal, and this does affect the whole town, it would be a town council decision. If under our financial regulations, if a contract is over 25,000, we are obliged to use the government contract finder service as well. And we will always go out and try and get 3 tenders minimum for any large contract.
Sure.
And
Okay,
then it will
thank
come
you.
back to committee, it will come back to town council for decision.
Did anybody else have a hand up?
It's me.
Yes, Gareth.
Can I say?
Yes, please.
Can I say?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I just ask one thing? Lots of things happening in Old Town Beaconsfield. So can we actually get the Old Town 4 streets under the CCTV coverage? Because lots of car theft, shop vandalism, lots of things happening. Is it possible to actually add Old Town 4 Street on the CCTV coverage?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I would think that it would be limited to where the existing cameras are because of the connectivity.
Can the committee propose anything and make it happen?
Sure.
Alistair has,
Aspirational.
Alistair has
Look at that. Okay.
Alistair.
Alistair, are you? I can't see on my frame.
Okay, sorry. There is a camera at the junction of Aylesbury End and Wickham End that looks down London End and actually ties up with the next camera down, which is by the second zebra crossing. Now, the only problem is that historically and at different times, those 2 cameras have been used for ANPR purposes. But I believe that the one in the centre of town is actually still being used for general CCTV monitoring. But we can check that out with the monitoring people in Wickham.
Because my strong view is, if you look at the Wickham End corner, it's lots of car theft happen on there, and the Aylesbury and what's they called, Common Lands area, lots of car theft happened there as well. So we definitely need a coverage there. So please think about it. I really need strong support from all.
Okay, can I just add that the fact that we have the cameras does not always do what you think it's going to do, because what is important is the actual monitoring facility in Wickham, and we do not pay for, I think, more than 24 hours of 1 hour of monitoring in 24 hours. So although we have the cameras there and they are recording, there is nobody sitting in front of a screen for more than 1 hour per day for Beaconsfield. So it's quite a sort of strange situation that you've got the ability there, but unless you actually have control over the monitoring, or you have the financial ability to spend and buy more monitoring time, then you're only able to retrospectively see what happened after it happened.
But one thing can be happened: if we have the recording, we still can find the person who has done that.
Yep.
Paul Mason has his hand up.
Might I make a suggestion that from this point forward, we don't talk in open forum about the capability of our system? I would suggest that we would do that offline, as I don't think that we should be publishing exactly what this system can and cannot do necessarily. I think the public would understand that if the expectation or the understanding is that these things could be monitored and seen at any time, would be a useful message to be out there. And so I would suggest we take this offline if we want any further detail on it.
I think that's a very valid point, Paul. Thank you. And I think we actually should close this discussion right now. We've got other business that we have to transact. And I think Alexa has made a point of all the items we've covered and can bear that in mind when she next reports to us. Could we move on, please, to item 14, which is the Beaconsfield Community Festival?
Okay. The Beaconsfield Community Festival is a kind of a group of events generally happening around May. Obviously, the last couple of years we are utterly disrupted, so nothing has happened at all. Some of the sort of driving people behind this were Debbie Marsden and Nanu. Nanu is unfortunately moving away, and Debbie's involved in some other things. And I have had some initial meeting with them a while back, but they are looking to talk to us, and I'm getting a meeting booked with them to see if we would take on the idea of the community festival. And as I say, what it is really is a number of different events all happening at the same time. If Beaconsfield Now were to come back, we haven't had that for a few years, and all these other things. And it's really to have a meeting with them and to see what can happen and when, and whether we could get that going for next May, and get all the interested parties in a line, and hopefully with no pandemic, nothing in our way, and everything to effectively come under a town council umbrella. They do also have some funding left over from previous events, which in the usual money go round is probably funding that we funded to them for various things, but the same monies do stay ring fenced, and we would keep that ring fenced for that particular community festival idea. So it was really just a heads up to tell you what's happening there, and the fact that they are likely to be stepping down, and are looking to the town council to step up and take that on.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody got any questions they want to raise now? Otherwise, I think we should wait till Alexa can produce a paper for us, having discussed the situation with Debbie and one or two others who've been involved.
Yep.
Right, let's, Alistair, have you got anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think the only thing is that we could sort of see it as a brand without actually being involved. And I think our aspiration might be to develop it along the lines of the Woburn Festival, and for it to be a fairly significant sort of flagship event at the halfway point in the year. So I think it would be well worth getting involved with.
Okay, well, Alexa, we'll look forward to hearing your staged report at our next meeting. The next item is the working group update. I don't know whether anybody has got anything to say further on the neighbourhood plan working group. Alistair, I really think you should respond to that.
Well, we are sort of progressing. Obviously, the events of the last sort of 2 or 3 months around the lead up to and post-election slowed us down quite seriously. We're beginning to get going again. We've restructured the project slightly so that we're now focusing on the 3 areas of the town, and we have a working group for Old Town, New Town, and Holtsborough. And as we said earlier on, it's our aspiration to work towards an event, invite residents to come and see an exhibition of what neighbourhood plan is all about, and also to look at some of the ideas for people to basically say, yes, we like those ideas, or what about these ideas, which could be new ideas, which residents might wish to put on the table. So that's where we are with neighbourhood plan at the moment.
Okay, thank you. The other working group is the World War II commemorative exhibition, which hasn't met since the beginning of March last year. There are a number of people on that committee who unfortunately are no longer available to us, but it is planned that we should have another one within the next 6 or 8 weeks, subject to the people being available, with a view to seeing whether we can put on something based on what we have done for VE Day, what we were planning to do for VJ Day, and also that fits in with the timetable for the Beaconsfield Festival. There is a fair amount of material. Our next step would be to go to the archives project, and also to talk to Beaconsfield County Council sorry, I shouldn't say Beaconsfield County Council, the Buckinghamshire Council, to look at what exhibits they've got, which could be of interest to the residents and visitors to Beaconsfield. And this might also include other aspects of the World War II that was fought or attended to in the Thames Valley, as for example, Hambledon and Medmenham, and areas that aren't quite as well known, but are now becoming obvious, like Hughenden and Bletchley Park, and there are others. But it's very early days to try and get a new committee together, and I think we will be led by Alistair in terms of the festival and when is that going to take place, and what is the planned content. And that's really all I can tell you on that at the moment. Jeanette, you've been very involved in this. Can you add anything to what I've said that's going to be useful?
Yes, I mean, we can revive that working group and see where there's the appetite to to do some of those events that were planned, such as the film night, tea, and various other bits, and the timing of that. So we could amend what was done before to suit where we are now 2 years later.
Right, thank you very much. Has anybody got any points? I can't see the hands of anybody. No.
You're okay.
Right, well, thank you very much. We now have to mention the date of the next meeting. We've come to the end of our agenda, and we have typed in here the date of the next meeting as the 16th of September. So I'd appreciate if all of you can confirm you've got that date in your diaries. I will look forward to seeing you then in committee, but meantime, I will be communicating to each one of you to see how you may be able to help in the various working parties that we have got, and those that we may well form to the benefit of the residents in future weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you all the members, and I'll bid you good night.